So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at some Florida tax lien certificates. So we know today's been obviously Florida focused, but we thought it was worth talking about. We have a lot of students that live in Florida. We have a lot of investors that are interested in Florida. And so we thought it was good to go over both the tax deed opportunities and the tax lien certificate auctions that are happening right now. So if you are interested in tax liens, now's the time to get started. In fact, sometimes me and Shade will look in counties that maybe might have a little bit less competition. We talked about the 3 different services out there. Sometimes I've seen some great interest rate returns on tax lien auctions in that tax certificate auction. That different website, they're kind of like the, I don't know what to say, the value brand of,
It was
you
like
know,
discount.
yeah, the
Yeah,
discount, of Real Auction or Lien Hub. And so in that case, we've seen great deals in there. Now they may be a little bit more rural county, but 95% of the time, you're going to get your money back anyway without even going to the tax deed sale. And in Florida, you're not going to get the property anyway. So if it's a good property and it goes to the auction, it's definitely going to sell for at least the opening bid amount, which means that you're going to get paid back your money and your interest rate return.
yeah. And Carl, I'll see if I can grab the information here, or if you want information, you can also email me at send me your email at shade@taxsalesupport.info. Send me an email there and I'll be able to send you over anything from there. I'm afraid I won't have the chance to write it down. Now, what we're looking at right here, this is Real Auction, which, they do a lot of the tax, they do tax deed sales there for Florida and some other states. They also do tax lien sales for several states. We can see, we mentioned how Colorado's, is now a state that utilizes tax deed applications. This is for their liens that they have, their lien sales that they do. And here we have for Florida and their lien sales. And one thing you'll notice is all of these Florida liens sales open, either they've just opened or they open in the next week. And so let's go down here and look at a few of these. Some of them are big counties, some of them are small counties. And we have some small counties like, for instance, Lafayette here. And so one of the things, we're going to go and look here at the preview items, but if you need information about the sale, what you want to do actually is if you go over to the bidding rules right here, and you scroll down from here, here's where they have the most important information. And a lot of it you can find right here in the summary, of important information, like for instance, the date. So the actual date of the auction in this case is on June 1st, but they have the other things like, the bidding begins, as of today. And deposit though is required by, the cutoff is the 22nd. So you've got a couple of weeks here before the deposit is required to be in, and then the auction will take place here on the 1st. Now, if we go over and preview the items here, Lafayette's a smaller county. They've got 529 liens that are available, which is not that many compared to some of the counties that have 28,000 or 30,000, which we'll see some of the counties that have that. The majority of the liens, though, the majority of new liens are going to be good, good investments, or are good. Basically, they're good liens against good, valuable properties.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of interesting. That's actually one of the smallest tax lien list in Florida I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is. It's a very small sale compared to most of them. And if we click on one here, so this is like an $800 lien that we're looking at, we can see that it is utilizing this improved property. It looks kind of like maybe a farmland or something like that. And we could go off of their values there. What we'd probably do is we can see it includes 1.86 acres and it's a mobile home. We'd probably just get the address, which would be right there, and use that to kind of set our value on the property. But at $800, the property wouldn't have to have too much value for the lien to be highly secure. That is one thing we're always asking. Our question is what percentage of value does this lien represent? And the lower the percentage of value, obviously, the more the more secure the lien is. So when we click, Palm Beach County is another county here that has an auction here. I think their sale ends on the 27th. So it ends a little bit earlier. They're one of the first that actually end, but they have 23,567 liens. So they've got tons of liens. Now you can see, one thing that's interesting is you can see different tax years. And in some cases, we have tax years of 2024, which would, I think, be the most recent on this list. But some of these also have liens or represent tax years that are a little bit older, like that, like 2020, 2021, or these few here that are at 2022.
I wonder if those are I wonder if those are over the counters.
I don't know. Let's pull one up and see what it tells us here. Oh, this one's on a house, it looks like. Yeah, a house here that was built in 1980. It's about 1,400 square feet, 1,436.
I'm gonna have to look into that after we're done, because it doesn't make sense to me why they would be having a lien from 2021 in the 2026 tax sale.
Yeah, now when we have questions like this, what we usually want to understand is we want to understand kind of what the tax history is here on the property. This is actually helpful because we can see what the total amount owed. There's your total amount owed on the property. So there are some over-the-counter liens here that are available, and you can see that the roll-up actually goes. So we are only looking there on that lien that we were just clicked on. It was like $2,800, right? And that $2,800 though is only 10%, less than 10% of what the actual total foreclosure cost on this property is. It's all the way up to $32,000 and includes tax years dating back to 2020. So we haven't had any of these that have actually, let's look. So 2019 was last year paid. We haven't had any that have dropped off because they've got too old. Some of these are earning interest though. You can see how much interest this one. So the original amount was like $3,700, and this thing has earned $2,000, $2,059 in interest over that time period. Oh, look at that though. They paid $3,100 though. So that was actually the last payment that was made was for $3,100, which lowered that tax bill down. And that's the lane that we're looking at right now, I think.
Yeah, this is a really weird one. This isn't your normal tax lien, because you can see where it says certificate, but then it says past due. I mean, unless they've been doing an on-site auction, and this is their first year doing an online auction, I don't know why you would have all of these tax liens that essentially look like there's a tax. Well, I guess there's tax lien 23, but there's not one in 24.
Let's see what the value of the property is real quick. Let's just grab the location address and let's just see if the value is there. Because if the property's valued at what it probably is, probably pretty high, then what's puzzling Steve and I a little bit is just why the liens wouldn't have been purchased before if they're against a property, that has good value, which, it looks like it's a house. Oh, is there no street side? Is it a gated community? It must be, or they haven't been in here yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, well, that's all right. We've got the address. Let's just see what the value is.
One thing we'd do as well is we'd check the GIS map just to make sure. And it doesn't look like it is. We can see probably an assessment if there's improvement value, but we did a bad deal review on one of the podcasts a while back where some individuals in Florida thought they were buying a condo or not a house, but they were actually just buying a thin strip of land between it, because there's something going on with this tax lien that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
In fact,
yeah. Even more confused now because this thing's valued pretty high.
Yeah, let's look at more of a kind of a normal one.
All right, let's pull up some other one here. So the other ones, if we're to look at, so most of these liens, even if we're looking at, let's pull up this one right here for $7,000 on a 2024. In this case, we're also looking at, now this one is a, what is this, a condo? I think, yeah, pretty big though, 2,500 square feet.
It says single family under the property code.
3,300. Yeah, maybe it's just a single family. It just looked like it was.
It's just a thin lot.
Yeah, it is just a thin lot, but a very valuable house. So that makes sense. And if we were to go and kind of look here at the same thing, will help us understand whether this $7,000 is all that's owed. Is this a first year tax lien, or is this just one of multiple liens? And let's see what we can see here. Oh, this one has past due taxes too.
What county are we looking in?
Palm Beach. Let me go down here and look and see if all these properties, they shouldn't, at least most of the properties we looked at here before. And now that looks like the first one I clicked on here. Let me click off a few of these here so I'm not getting an issue here with these things coming up, repopulating. Okay, all right, this one's a condo and pretty good value to it here. Okay, so this one looks more normal. All right, this is for 2024. You have 1 year of taxes that are owed. It's a $4,000 and like $4,800 lien, and we can see everything here makes sense. So we can see the initial tax amount was $44.74. There's been about $380 of interest that's owed on it so far, but that's a more straightforward lien. Most of them don't have all these. At least you're not normally going to see multiple years of liens on good properties because they usually sell. If there are liens that are available, if those other liens were available, what we don't understand is why somebody didn't buy them already.
Go down to the bottom where you can go to a page and go to page 50. Or just where, yeah, see, this is where we need to be. Those first ones there's something weird going on with those first ones. I don't know what it is because I was thinking, why is it showing 2024? It should show the tax year from 2025 because it's a 2026 year tax sale.
Yeah, it was showing us the over-the-counter stuff essentially first, or at least I don't know, stuff that was not purchased. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, we've got this one here, which is also a condo. They got valued at 65,000 is what they're saying. This is also a much smaller lien. It was like a lien amount I clicked on was like $1,300, I think. And yeah, so here this also makes sense. It's just a single lien, which some of those others were also just single amounts, but this is what would tell us at least what the roll up is going to be on the property and how many other liens may exist. So in this case, we know this is the only lien that exists against the property. If we were to buy it, this would be a first year lien. Some of those others had first year lien. The first year lien was actually like a 2020.
Yeah, there's something going on with that, but you can see that there's 23,000 tax liens available just within this county. And so, sometimes when we're looking at property, if we see a $200,000, home and a $200,000 piece of, let's say, commercial land, and we can earn, 16% off the land or 6% off the home, a lot of times we're going to go with the home because we're not going to own it anyway. So when you're looking at Florida and some of the states like that, Colorado, don't look at it like I'm going to own this property. Just look at what's going to be the best investment on your money. If I can earn 16% on land that's valued just as much as a home, then many times I'm just going to go ahead and buy that tax lien on the land because I'm not going to own it anyway. And what I'm most interested in is getting the highest interest rate I can.
Yeah, and all of these are very safe investments here. All of these are first year investments. In fact, I'm sure if we're looking at this list, the majority of the ones from 2025 for 2025 taxes are probably going to be just first year liens.
Click on a couple of big ones.
Let's see, 32,000. Let's look at that. This one looks like a commercial property of some kind. It's on Military Trail Road. Look at that, valued like $2 million. And 7,000 square feet. It's a small discount store, yeah.
It's retail. Go down to the improvement value. Kind of the appraisal. So 1.7 million.
Yeah.
And really what we do with tax lien certificates is we go through stage 1 due diligence, plus we check the roll up. So when we talk about stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, usually stage 1, if we go through and do good stage 1 due diligence search on it, then we're going to have a good idea of what the value is. We're not going to go through and do a full comparative market analysis on something like a home or something like that if we're just buying the tax lien, because if it's only 1% of the property's value, you know, chances are the owner's going to pay it off. If not, it's going to get sent to the deed sale, and that's when we'll make our return.
Yeah, that's kind of the situation with this property here, where you've got a property that's valued at least $2 million, probably more than that, probably $2 or $3 million, and you know, a lien amount that is about 30,000 right now. Probably represents 1%, maybe 1.5% of the property's, you know, overall value, if even that. Now, I'm not sure if it's even that much, but a very small percentage of value, so very secure investment. And we can see it's a first-year lien as well, and so you know, if there were subsequent opportunities, you might even get a chance to buy those.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. This is a big auction.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a humongous auction. Let's look at the one for 54,000. Let's get our last one to check out.
And one thing that, now that may be a junk, if that's the actual law, or oh, maybe I'm not seeing the whole thing. I just saw a line there. I was thinking it was.
Oh no,
I was just thinking it was just a lot, you know, a small strip of land, but no.
yeah, this is actually, so this is 10,000 square feet. It's like a financial, like a bank, I think is what it says it is. They, most of it built in 77, I think. And
It's
let's
worth
just,
almost 3 million.
yeah, it is valued pretty high. And we can see from just the amount, you know, they pay like 50,000 a year in taxes. And so this is probably going to be the only taxes that are owed here on it. But we'll know here in just a second. But it's always a good idea, though, to get in the habit of kind of checking out properties like this. Oh, look at that. It's not the only lien. So they owe all these past years here for this one as well. Let's,
No, look, they did a tax deed application, but they paid it.
oh yeah, they did. It redeemed. So it was going to foreclosure and it just got paid off. Yeah, those are all paid.
So what this shows us is that this is a property that has had a history of being delinquent. And last time in 2023, when somebody filled out the tax deed application, they paid it between when the tax deed application was filed and when the actual foreclosure took place at the, you know, the tax deed auction took place. So chances are they're probably going to pay us back, you know, and we can kind of get an idea. So that's the reason why looking at the record can kind of tell us something more about what's going on with the properties. Is this a first-year lien? Have they had a history of liens that they pay off before it goes to the tax sale in that tax deed application time period?
That's crazy.
Look at that interest, $26,000 of interest earned.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, it's quite a bit of interest here that's been earned. Well, and essentially what they're adding at this point is you'd have to pay, yeah, the tax deed application fee plus the, you know, the taxes for 2025, or basically is what makes up the total fee.
Yeah, well, and they paid it in 2023, and it looks like they probably paid their property taxes in 2024 because we don't see a 2024 lien. But then they went ahead, and you can see they were paid off there in 2024. So they had the tax deed application happen, the tax deed foreclosure happened in 2023. They ended up paying the property taxes in 2024, and now in 2025 taxes, they were delinquent again.
Yeah. Now, there's a couple of good questions here. Is there a minimum or maximum percentage you would recommend since we're bidding down the interest on tax liens? You know, that is a good question. I don't know if we have a set number that we would say. I mean, really, any interest rate, you know, where you're earning anything around 10% is a pretty good overall interest rate return. You know, so you can bid down the rates, but a lot of it kind of comes down to what you personally want, because you don't always have to give up a lot of interest. I mean, there are lots of liens that will bid down to almost nothing. And, you know, they do that because, well, sometimes I think
5% penalty makes a difference.
yeah, the 5% penalty probably is a big part of the reason why. See, sometimes you'll see bidders that bid down the interest to almost nothing or even nothing. And so, yeah, I don't know if we have a recommendation here in terms of your minimum interest rate return, because you'll make money in a lot of other ways. So I guess the one thing we will say is just this, you know, don't get so set on a specific property, you know, that you're willing to give away all your interest when a similarly valued property might have a much better interest rate return. So, sometimes the homes, might go for the practically no interest at all. And other properties that have good value may have a much better interest rate return. So that's the main thing we would say, is just to look for opportunities to earn higher interest rates on similar properties, because the vast majority of these all redeem anyway.
Yeah, and everyone's, return, what's an acceptable return to them is going to be different. There's investors, if they can make 6 or 7%, that's going to be good with them. They're going to also look at that 5% penalty. And then there's other investors that are going to want, 10 or 12 or 15%. So there's always going to be some type of bidding, but as you look in different areas, and there's a lot of liens here, the way that this works is you're going to put down 10% of what you plan on investing, and then it'll bid on your behalf. So you're not going to earn or buy more tax liens than you can essentially afford, or what you've included within your deposit. And so because of that, our recommendation is to bid on as many tax liens as you can. Just because you're giving yourself a better chance to be able to get one of those at the interest rate that you want. Shade, I sent you a couple of links. I don't know, we can click on them if we want to or not, but these are just two of the other organizations out there that offer tax liens. Now, this is the one that we kind of called the value store, kind of your dollar store tax sale provider. And you can see here over on the left the different counties that use this. And there's Washington. We were talking about Washington earlier. You can click on any of them to see what their auction is and when it's starting and what's required.
Oh yeah, look at, so some of these, they should have a list out by now. I wonder how you get their list.
I can't remember if you have to be registered. You might have to be registered. I also sent over Lien Hub too, and that's one of the big ones.
Oh, let's see. Let me click on that.
In fact, they actually have more counties than Real Auction does for the tax lien sales. And over on the left-hand side, you can see the different counties. So right now, you can see all of the different counties that use this system, and there's more within Lien Hub than there is even in Real Auction.
Yeah, there are so many there. Look at all the counties there in Lien Hub, and they've got the full list that's here as well. Different style of list, but you can see what's nice too is they tell us right there whether it's homestead or not, so you don't have to guess. You kind of know that certain properties are homestead, which makes it a little bit easier here. And let's see what they provide here link wise. Oh, this is handy too. So I like previews like this, because what they do is they show us the information we need to see. So like what the face amount of it is, what the property is assessed at. And usually they'll show us here, yeah, down here we can see if there are prior certificates that are issued, if there's any of these that are outstanding, if any of them have been redeemed. So we can kind of tell just at a glance, by clicking on these things, what is going on, with properties, and we automatically know. So you look at that, there's 3 prior liens here, on this one, and we also see the average months for the prior liens was about 12 months.
Yeah, and up at the top, you can click on the tax record or the property card or the details or the Google map. So they're providing some pretty good links there as well that we can use to look into additional research on the property to determine exactly what it is, and some more details before determining if it's a property that we'd like to bid on.
Yeah, these Lien Hub lists are pretty nice to work with. They're nice and easy that way. Yeah, like we can see here, we have one other certificate that's outstanding, prior year that redeemed. And look at that, they redeemed after 2 months, so this one will probably redeem quickly.
Yeah, and even that tells us something, because if we do get that 5% penalty, then even if it redeemed after 2 months, we're going to at least make 5%. Or if we redeem that next month.
Yeah. Yeah, and these are all good investments here. In fact, I lost where I was at here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, the Lien Hub sales are pretty good. And I think these, in some ways, they're easier to work with than the Real Auction sales. At least the lists are. I like the lists for Lien Hub better because they seem to work better. And the other one we were talking about here was it is taxcertsale.com. It's like in fact, I'll tell you what, I'll put a link down there in the chat section for people if they are interested in it.
Yeah, and if you are a member, we'll have these listed as well on the auction calendar, and also within the online auction tab.
Yeah, there we go. I posted that there in the chat section here. Let me also post it here. There we go. Yeah, they're in the question section. I responded there with tax cert sale on those ones. And then the other one we're dealing with is Lien Hub. And I'll give you a link here for Lien Hub as well. I think it's just lienhub.com though.
But hopefully that gives you guys, as far as how Florida works, what opportunities are available there. And with this many different tax lien certificates, some areas are going to be more competitive. And some properties are going to be more competitive. Even within more competitive markets, or you can still find liens that you're going to be able to get a lot better interest rate than other type of tax liens.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and like Greg is saying here, do check for flood zones. That's always something to check for. If you're, especially with land purchases, you've got to be careful with land, to make sure it doesn't exist here in a flood zone. And fortunately, we can usually figure that out now with zoning maps, or not zoning maps, but GIS maps. Oftentimes in our layers there, we've got floodplain maps that will help us understand where those properties are at. But yeah, these Lien Hub lists are awesome. They're nice and easy to work with and give us all of the valuable information. I mean, look, there have been 7 previous liens that have been issued. There's still 7 that are outstanding. So this property has 7 liens against it. This one might be one where it has some problems.
Yeah, definitely look into before bidding on it. Click on the property.
Look at the size. It's commercial, but it's 0.02 acre.
Yeah, so when I see 7 liens there, click on the tax record. It's going to give us an idea that that's automatically, if there was liens purchased, nobody has decided to foreclose on it yet. And the question is why? If it's 3 years worth of tax liens, maybe it's just a kind of lazy investor, so to speak. But as we're getting into 7 years, that's automatically a red flag. Why hasn't anyone foreclosed on the property yet?
Well, that's weird. See here, we have all of the unpaid. So that's the total amount owed here is about $2,000 on the property. But it is kind of a lot though, considering that you have all these past due liens here that are fairly old. But you notice that they can't charge anything beyond this one here in 2018, because then it drops off after the 7 years.
Yeah, in fact, there is investors that did buy them. Because look, I mean, you can see they didn't buy that one, but somebody bought that one at 17.75, and then somebody paid got that one for 7% and 8.5%. So somebody was actually bidding on these. These are liens that somebody bought that's pretty much a junk lien.
Yeah, yeah,
We'd
and
know
they still,
more by looking at the property card, but yeah.
yeah, they still could end up redeeming too if somebody ends up paying this off. But it's just such a small piece of commercial property that I have to wonder.
You can click on the interactive map to get a better idea, I think.
Yeah, it looks like it kind of looks like a junk property. It's certainly going to be too small for anything.
No, I mean, it is tiny. What is that, 10 feet by 30 feet? I don't even know if
Yeah,
it's that.
yeah, it's 0.018 acres, so it's not. I mean, it is tiny. They don't tell you the square feet, but it's not very many, and it's also not being used for anything. It's never been cleared, so it wouldn't meet zoning requirements for use, I doubt. If they have any kind of minimum size requirement, but yeah, it can't really be used for anything. That's a junk property.
Well, look at it. It's one little lot inside. Look at surrounded by a big lot. The only thing I could think that if you owned it, I would never buy the tax lien. But if you owned it, maybe you could put up a billboard. But even that, is who knows if you could or not.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
the only use I could see with it.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, it's a good time of the year to participate in lien sales because, again, these are going to earn great rates of return here overall, and they're very safe. Again, if you're even checking things that you're buying here before you buy, you're going to be able to make very safe investments on all of these properties. Liens in general tend to be very safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you can get an idea. Like we saw that one, we could tell pretty quick there was something going on with it. Looking at what the assessed value is, looking at the the past liens, automatically that's going to be a red flag. We're going to avoid that because there's so many other liens that we can choose.